The Big Bang Theory is one of the most beloved sitcoms of the 21st century, captivating millions of viewers with its quirky characters, witty dialogue, and unique blend of science and pop culture. For 12 seasons, fans tuned in to watch the misadventures of Sheldon, Leonard, Penny, and the rest of the gang as they navigated the complexities of friendship, romance, and theoretical physics. But while the show's surface sparkled with laughter and charm, there's a hidden layer of secrets, oddities, and behind-the-scenes stories that the producers never wanted the public to know. Today, we're pulling back the curtain to reveal the weirdest facts about the Big Bang Theory that were carefully kept under wraps until now. Let's start with the show's origin story, which is far stranger than most fans realize. The Big Bang Theory almost didn't exist in the form we know and love. In fact, the original pilot was a complete disaster. The first version, shot in 2006, featured a much darker tone and two completely different female leads. Instead of Penny, there was a character named Katie, played by Amanda Walsh, who was written as a tough, street, smart woman with a cynical edge. The chemistry just wasn't there, and test audiences hated it. The producers, Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady, were forced to go back to the drawing board. They reimagined the show, softened the tone, and created the character of Penny, casting Kaley Cuoco in the role. This change was so pivotal that it's hard to imagine the show without her. But the original pilot remains locked away, rarely seen by the public. The producers have always been tight-lipped about just how close the show came to never making it to air. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. Did you know that the show's iconic theme song almost didn't happen? The producers originally wanted to use Thomas Dolby's "She Blinded Me with Science" as the opening theme. However, after some back and forth, they decided to commission a brand new song from Barenaked Ladies. The band's frontman, Ed Robertson, wrote the now famous theme in just a few hours after reading a summary of the show. The producers loved it, but there was a catch. They wanted the song to be educational, catchy, and short enough to fit a sitcom intro. Robertson delivered, and the rest is history. But what most fans don't know is that the producers had a backup plan in case the Barenaked Ladies song didn't work out. They considered using a completely instrumental theme, which would have given the show a very different vibe. Moving on to the cast, there are some truly bizarre stories about how the actors landed their roles. Jim Parsons, who played Sheldon Cooper, almost didn't get the part. During his audition, he delivered the lines with such intensity and precision that the producers thought he was too good to be true. Chuck Lorre was convinced that Parsons' performance was a fluke, so he made him audition again the next day. Parsons nailed it a second time, and the rest is history. But here's the weird part. Jim Parsons has admitted in interviews that he doesn't actually understand most of the science jargon he spouted on the show. He memorized the lines phonetically, relying on the writers and science consultants to make sure everything sounded authentic. The producers went to great lengths to keep this fact under wraps, fearing it would ruin the illusion for fans who saw Sheldon as a real-life genius. And speaking of science consultants, the Big Bang Theory had a secret weapon behind the scenes: Dr. David Saltzberg, a real-life physicist from UCLA. Saltzberg was responsible for making sure all the equations, diagrams, and scientific references were accurate. He even wrote out the whiteboard equations seen in Sheldon and Leonard's apartment. But what the producers never revealed is that Saltzberg sometimes slipped in inside jokes and references that only real scientists would catch. For example, some of the equations on the whiteboards are actually references to famous scientific pranks or unsolved mysteries in physics. These Easter eggs were never explained on the show, and only the most eagle-eyed viewers, and a handful of physicists, ever noticed them. As we dig deeper, you'll see that the world of the Big Bang Theory is far stranger than it appears on the surface. From secret pilot episodes to hidden messages in the set design, the producers went to great lengths to craft a show that was both entertaining and full of hidden surprises. But why did they keep these facts from the public? Was it to preserve the show's magic, or were there deeper reasons at play? In the next section, we'll uncover even more weird facts that the producers tried to keep hidden, including some that might just change the way you see your favorite characters forever. If you thought the secrets behind the show's creation were strange, wait until you hear about the oddities that unfolded once the Big Bang Theory became a hit. One of the most bizarre facts the producers kept hidden involves the show's set itself. While most sitcoms use generic props and recycled furniture, the Big Bang Theory's set designers went to extraordinary lengths to create an authentic environment for the characters. But what fans didn't know is that many of the items in Sheldon and Leonard's apartment were actually borrowed from real scientists and science museums. The whiteboards, for example, were sometimes on loan from UCLA's physics department, and the vintage science equipment scattered around the apartment was sourced from collectors who insisted on anonymity. The producers were so secretive about the origins of these props that even some of the cast members didn't know where they came from. This attention to detail gave the show its unique flavor, but it also meant that the set was constantly under surveillance to prevent theft or damage, a fact the producers never discussed publicly. Another weird fact involves the show's laugh track. While The Big Bang Theory was filmed in front of a live studio audience, the producers often enhanced the laughter with pre-recorded tracks. But here's the twist: some of the laughter used in the show dates back to the 1950s and 60s, taken from classic sitcoms like I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners. The producers believed that mixing in these vintage laughs would give the show a timeless feel. But they never admitted this in interviews. In fact, if you listen closely, you can sometimes hear the same distinctive laugh patterns in multiple episodes, a subtle nod to sitcom history that only the most attentive fans would ever notice. The cast's off-screen relationships were another area where the producers worked hard to control the narrative. While the chemistry between the actors seemed effortless, there were moments of real tension behind the scenes. For instance, during the early seasons, Kaley, Cuoco, and Johnny Galecki, who played Penny and Leonard, secretly dated for almost 2 years. The producers were aware of the relationship, but insisted that the couple keep it hidden from the public to avoid distracting from the show's storylines. When the relationship eventually ended, the producers orchestrated a series of interviews and press releases to assure fans that everything was amicable. What they didn't reveal was that the breakup caused some awkwardness on set, leading to a temporary cooling of the on-screen romance between Penny and Leonard. The producers' ability to manage these personal dynamics was crucial to the show's longevity, but it also meant that fans never got the full story. And then there's the matter of the show's guest stars. The Big Bang Theory became famous for its parade of celebrity cameos, from Stephen Hawking to Elon Musk to Stan Lee. But what most viewers don't know is that some of these appearances were the result of intense behind-the-scenes negotiations and, in some cases, outright begging. The producers were determined to land the biggest names in science and pop culture. But not everyone was eager to appear on a sitcom. For example, Stephen Hawking initially declined the invitation, citing his busy schedule and health concerns. It took months of persuasion, including personal letters from the cast and producers, to convince him to make a cameo. When he finally agreed, the producers went to extraordinary lengths to accommodate his needs, including building a custom set and arranging for a team of medical professionals to be on standby. These efforts were never publicized, as the producers wanted the cameos to appear effortless and spontaneous. The show's writers also had their own set of secrets. While The Big Bang Theory was known for its sharp, rapid-fire dialogue, the writing process was anything but smooth. The writer's room was notorious for its high-pressure environment, with scripts being rewritten multiple times right up until filming. The producers enforced a strict policy of secrecy, forbidding writers from discussing plot lines or character arcs outside the studio. This led to a culture of paranoia, with writers often working late into the night to perfect jokes and storylines. Some writers have since revealed that they were required to sign non-disclosure agreements that extended years beyond the show's finale, a level of secrecy rarely seen in television. But perhaps the weirdest fact of all is the show's connection to real scientific discoveries. On more than one occasion, episodes of The Big Bang Theory have coincided with actual breakthroughs in physics and astronomy. In one memorable instance, an episode about the discovery of a new exoplanet aired just days before NASA announced a similar real-world finding. The producers have always denied any insider knowledge, but some fans believe that the show's science consultants had access to information before it became public. Whether this is true or just a strange coincidence, it adds another layer of mystery to a show already full of secrets. As we continue to peel back the layers, it becomes clear that The Big Bang Theory was more than just a sitcom. It was a carefully constructed world, full of hidden details and untold stories. In the next section, we'll dive even deeper into the show's most closely guarded secrets, including the strange rituals and superstitions that shaped the cast and crew's daily lives. The Big Bang Theory's set was not just a workplace. It was a world unto itself, governed by its own peculiar rituals and superstitions. While the show's scientific themes might suggest a cast and crew grounded in logic, the reality was far stranger. Many of the actors and producers developed quirky habits and routines that they believed brought good luck or warded off bad vibes. For example, before every table read, Jim Parsons would walk around the set 3 times, a ritual he claimed helped him get into character as Sheldon. Kaley Cuoco, on the other hand, always wore a specific pair of socks on filming days, convinced that they brought her good fortune. The producers, aware of these superstitions, never discouraged them. In fact, they quietly encouraged such behaviors, believing that anything that kept the cast comfortable and focused was worth indulging. But the oddities didn't stop with the cast. The crew had their own set of traditions, some of which bordered on the bizarre. Every Friday, the lighting team would leave a rubber duck hidden somewhere on the set, challenging the rest of the crew to find it before the end of the day. This game became so popular that it eventually spread to the writers and even the producers themselves. The rubber duck became a kind of unofficial mascot, and its presence was considered a sign that the week's filming would go smoothly. The producers never mentioned this tradition in interviews or behind-the-scenes specials, preferring to keep it as an inside joke among the team. Another strange fact involves the show's infamous Soft Kitty song. While fans know it as Sheldon's Go to Comfort tune, the story behind its inclusion is more complicated than most realize. The producers discovered the song in a children's book, and thought it would be a funny, endearing quirk for Sheldon. However, after the song became a fan favorite, the original author's estate filed a lawsuit, claiming copyright infringement. The producers scrambled to resolve the issue, eventually reaching a confidential settlement. The legal battle was kept out of the headlines, and the producers continued to use the song sparingly, careful not to draw too much attention to its origins. This behind-the-scenes drama was never acknowledged publicly, but it's a reminder of how even the most innocent seeming elements of the show could have complicated backstories. The show's wardrobe department also had its share of secrets. Sheldon's iconic T-shirts, emblazoned with superhero logos and science jokes, became a signature part of his character. But what fans didn't know is that the producers had to negotiate with multiple comic book companies to secure the rights to use those logos. In some cases, the negotiations dragged on for months, with producers offering everything from product placement to charity donations in exchange for permission. There were even a few episodes where Sheldon's shirts had to be digitally altered in post-production because the rights hadn't been cleared in time. The producers never discussed these challenges, preferring to let fans believe that Sheldon's wardrobe was simply a reflection of his personality. And then there's the matter of the show's food. The Big Bang Theory is famous for its scenes of the characters eating takeout in the apartment. But what viewers didn't realize is that the food was almost always real, and often cold by the time filming wrapped. The producers insisted on using actual takeout from local restaurants to maintain authenticity. But this led to some unexpected problems. The cast quickly grew tired of eating the same dishes over and over, and there were frequent complaints about the food's quality. In one particularly odd incident, a batch of Chinese food used in a scene turned out to be spoiled, causing several cast members to fall ill. The producers quietly switched to using prop food for certain scenes after that, but they never admitted the change to fans. The show's success also brought its own set of pressures. As ratings soared, the producers became increasingly protective of the show's image. They implemented strict rules about what could and couldn't be shared on social media, and cast members were required to clear all interviews and public appearances with the producers first. This level of control extended to the scripts as well. Storylines were often changed at the last minute to avoid controversy or negative publicity. The producers' desire to maintain a squeaky, clean image sometimes led to creative conflicts, with writers and actors pushing back against what they saw as unnecessary censorship. Despite these challenges, the cast and crew developed a strong sense of camaraderie, bonded by their shared experiences and the show's unique culture. The producers worked hard to foster this sense of family, organizing regular cast dinners, holiday parties, and even group vacations. These events were rarely publicized, but they played a crucial role in keeping the team united through 12 seasons of ups and downs. In the next section, we'll explore the show's most controversial moments, the secrets behind its biggest plot twists, and the lengths the producers went to in order to keep fans guessing. Controversy is something every long-running show faces, but the Big Bang Theory's producers were masters at keeping the most explosive moments out of the public eye. While the series is remembered for its lighthearted humor and lovable characters, there were several behind-the-scenes incidents and plot decisions that nearly derailed the show. One of the most controversial moments came during the negotiation of the cast's contracts. As the show's popularity skyrocketed, the main actors banded together to demand higher salaries, inspired by the precedent set by the cast of Friends. What fans didn't know was just how tense these negotiations became. At one point, production was nearly halted as Jim Parsons, Kaley Cuoco, and Johnny Galecki held out for equal pay. The producers, desperate to keep the show on track, agreed to their demands, but only after a series of heated meetings and last-minute compromises. The public was told that the cast was like family. But the reality was far more complicated, with agents and lawyers working overtime to keep everyone happy. Another closely guarded secret involved the show's biggest plot twists. The producers were obsessed with keeping spoilers from leaking, going so far as to film multiple versions of key scenes. For example, when Sheldon proposed to Amy, the producers shot 3 different endings to prevent even the cast from knowing which one would air. Scripts were printed on red paper to prevent photocopying, and actors were sometimes given only their own lines to memorize. This level of secrecy created a sense of paranoia on set. But it also added to the excitement, as no one knew for sure what would happen next. The producers believed that this approach kept the show fresh and unpredictable. But it also led to frustration among the writers, who sometimes felt left out of the creative process. The show's handling of sensitive topics was another area where the producers exercised extreme caution. While The Big Bang Theory was known for its nerdy humor, it occasionally tackled issues like mental health, gender roles, and social awkwardness. The producers worked closely with consultants to ensure that these topics were handled with care, but they also made a conscious effort to avoid controversy. In some cases, entire storylines were scrapped at the last minute because the producers feared backlash from advocacy groups or sponsors. For instance, an early draft of the show's final season included a storyline about Sheldon struggling with anxiety, but it was ultimately dropped in favor of a more light-hearted approach. The producers never discussed these decisions publicly, preferring to let the show's humor take center stage. One of the weirdest secrets involved the show's use of real science. While the producers prided themselves on accuracy, there were times when they deliberately bent the truth for the sake of a joke. In one episode, Sheldon claims to have solved a famous physics problem, but in reality, the solution he presents is mathematically impossible. The producers knew this, but they trusted that most viewers wouldn't notice. However, a small group of fans, many of them scientists, caught the error and began discussing it online. Rather than admit the mistake, the producers quietly changed the whiteboard equations in later episodes, hoping no one would notice. This willingness to play fast and loose with the facts was a closely guarded secret, as the producers wanted to maintain the show's reputation for scientific accuracy. The producers also went to great lengths to protect the privacy of the cast. When paparazzi began staking out the set, the producers hired private security to keep them at bay. They also implemented strict rules about what could be shared on social media, with cast members required to get approval before posting anything related to the show. This level of control extended to the fans as well. Audience members who attended live tapings were required to sign non-disclosure agreements and were sometimes searched for recording devices. The producers believed that this level of secrecy was necessary to preserve the magic of the show, but it also created an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. Despite these challenges, The Big Bang Theory continued to thrive, thanks in large part to the producers' ability to adapt and innovate. They were constantly looking for new ways to keep the show fresh, whether it was introducing new characters, experimenting with different storylines, or bringing in high-profile guest stars. In the next section, we'll uncover the most surprising facts about the show's final seasons. the legacy it left behind, and the secrets that may never be revealed. As The Big Bang Theory entered its final seasons, the atmosphere on set shifted in subtle but significant ways. The cast and crew, who had spent over a decade together, began to feel the weight of impending goodbyes. Yet, the producers were determined to keep the energy high and the storylines engaging, even as rumors swirled about the show's future. One of the strangest facts about the final seasons is how the producers managed the transition from a show about four nerdy friends to a sprawling ensemble comedy, with new characters like Amy and Bernadette becoming central to the plot. The writers faced the challenge of balancing screen time and keeping the original spirit alive. What fans didn't see was the intense debate behind the scenes about which characters should get the spotlight. The producers held secret meetings to decide who would get the most memorable story arcs, and at times, these decisions led to heated arguments among the creative team. Another weird fact involves the show's approach to continuity. With so many episodes and running gags, keeping track of every detail became a monumental task. The producers hired a dedicated continuity supervisor, whose sole job was to ensure that the characters' backstories, apartment layouts, and even the placement of props remained consistent from episode to episode. This supervisor kept a massive binder filled with notes, photographs, and diagrams, and was known to stop filming if something didn't match up. The producers never talked about this role in interviews, preferring to let fans believe that the show's consistency was the result of the writers' encyclopedic knowledge. In reality, it was the work of one unsung hero behind the scenes. The final seasons also saw the producers experimenting with new formats and storytelling techniques. For example, they introduced more serialized storylines, allowing characters to grow and change in ways that weren't possible in the early years. This shift was risky, as it meant moving away from the show's traditional episodic structure. The producers worried that longtime fans might not embrace the changes, so they carefully tested new ideas in focus groups before committing to them. Some of the most beloved episodes from the later seasons, such as Sheldon and Amy's wedding or Howard and Bernadette's journey into parenthood, were the result of months of planning and audience feedback. The producers' willingness to adapt kept the show relevant, but it also meant that some storylines were abandoned or rewritten at the last minute, never to be seen by the public. One of the most closely guarded secrets of the final seasons was the decision to end the show. While the official story is that Jim Parsons wanted to move on, the reality is more complicated. The producers had been discussing the possibility of ending the series for years, worried that the show might overstay its welcome. When Parsons finally announced his decision, the producers quickly rallied the cast and crew for a series of emotional meetings. They debated whether to continue without Sheldon, but ultimately decided that the show wouldn't be the same. The producers kept these discussions private, not wanting to upset fans or create unnecessary drama in the media. Even after the announcement, they worked hard to maintain a sense of unity, organizing farewell parties and commemorative gifts for everyone involved. The show's final episode was a closely guarded secret, with scripts distributed only to essential personnel and multiple endings filmed to prevent leaks. The producers wanted the finale to be a celebration of everything the show had accomplished, while also leaving room for the characters to grow beyond the confines of the series. They included subtle callbacks to earlier episodes, hidden Easter eggs, and heartfelt moments that paid tribute to the cast's journey. What fans didn't know is that the producers also filmed a private goodbye scene featuring the entire cast and crew. That was never intended to air. This scene, kept in the show's archives, remains one of the most touching moments in the series' history. A secret farewell shared only by those who brought The Big Bang Theory to life. As the credits rolled on the final episode, fans around the world celebrated the end of an era. But for the producers, the work was far from over. In the next and final section, we'll explore the show's lasting legacy, the impact it had on television and pop culture, and the weirdest secrets that may still be hidden, waiting to be discovered by the most dedicated fans. The Big Bang Theory's legacy is as complex and layered as the show itself. On the surface, it's a sitcom about a group of socially awkward scientists and their adventures in love, friendship, and physics. But beneath the laughter and catchphrases lies a story of innovation, risk-taking, and a relentless pursuit of authenticity. Qualities that the producers worked tirelessly to maintain, even as they hid some of the show's strangest secrets from the public eye. As the dust settled after the finale, fans and critics alike began to reflect on what made the show so enduring, and why its impact continues to be felt in pop culture today. One of the most significant aspects of The Big Bang Theory's legacy is the way it changed the perception of nerd culture. Before the show, scientists, comic book fans, and gamers were often relegated to the sidelines of mainstream entertainment. The producers saw an opportunity to bring these worlds into the spotlight, but they also knew that authenticity was key. They hired consultants, scoured comic book shops for set pieces, and even attended science conventions to ensure that every detail rang true. What they didn't reveal was just how much pushback they faced from network executives, who initially doubted that a show about physicists and engineers could ever become a hit. The producers fought hard to keep their vision intact, and their gamble paid off. The Big Bang Theory became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring a new generation of fans to embrace their inner geek. But the show's influence didn't stop at pop culture. The Big Bang Theory also had a real world impact on science education and public interest in STEM fields. Universities reported spikes in physics and engineering enrollments, and science museums saw increased attendance, often crediting the show for making science cool again. The producers quietly supported these efforts, donating props and memorabilia to schools and museums, and even funding scholarships for aspiring scientists. These acts of generosity were rarely publicized, as the producers preferred to let the show's legacy speak for itself. Yet, for those who benefited, the impact was profound, a testament to the power of storytelling to change lives. Of course, not all of the show's secrets have been revealed. Some of the weirdest facts remain hidden, known only to the producers and a select few insiders. For example, there are rumors of a lost episode filmed during the early seasons, featuring a storyline so controversial that it was shelved indefinitely. The script reportedly dealt with a major character facing a life-changing diagnosis, but the producers decided it was too dark for the show's tone. The episode was never aired, and the footage remains locked away in the studio archives. Whether it will ever see the light of day is anyone's guess, but its existence has become the stuff of legend among die-hard fans. Another enduring mystery involves the show's famous apartment set. After the series ended, the producers dismantled the set and placed many of the props in storage. However, a few key items, like Sheldon's spot on the couch and the broken elevator, were quietly donated to private collectors, with strict instructions that they never be resold or displayed publicly. The producers wanted to preserve the magic of the show, ensuring that these iconic pieces would remain shrouded in mystery. For fans, the knowledge that these artifacts are out there somewhere, hidden from view, only adds to the show's mystique. The relationships forged on set also left a lasting mark. While the producers worked hard to keep personal drama out of the headlines, the bonds between cast and crew were real and enduring. Many of the actors remain close friends, and reunions are not uncommon, though they are usually kept private. The producers have occasionally hinted at the possibility of a reunion special or spin-off, but for now, they are content to let the show's legacy stand on its own. They know that part of what made The Big Bang Theory special was its ability to surprise and delight, to keep fans guessing, and to leave a few secrets unsolved. In the end, The Big Bang Theory is more than just a sitcom. It's a cultural touchstone, a celebration of curiosity, and a testament to the power of storytelling. The producers may have hidden some of the weirdest facts from the public, but in doing so, they created a world that feels real, lived in, and endlessly fascinating. As fans continue to re-watch episodes, hunt for Easter eggs, and speculate about what really happened behind the scenes, the show's legacy only grows stronger. And perhaps that's the greatest secret of all, that the magic of The Big Bang Theory lies not just in what we see on screen, but in the mysteries that remain, waiting to be discovered by those who look a little closer.